newspaper, paper towels, acrylic brushes, an empty container, and a container of water. So here's just the flat, straight blue. And then this one, I did a watered down wash of colors. And I also did a little bit of blending. So I'll show you guys how to do that next. I get my brush a little bit wet. I can scoop this blue into the empty container. And then I can add a little bit of water and mix it really good. And this waters it down almost to like a watercolor consistency. And then it will flow on your bisqueware a little bit better. Now it's a little bit lighter, but we can layer it up. To make it darker, and we can also add like different colors over it. I'm trying to make sure I get it in all of the little textured areas. So then I can let that dry a little bit, and it doesn't take very long. But then what I did with this one was I took just straight acrylic on one side, or maybe I added a little bit of water so it flows better. And you can blend it to make like a gradient. So if I go back and forth and come down, and as the paint gets less and less on my brush, the color gets lighter. And if I want it to be a little bit darker, I can add again. So this is a good way to add depth to your piece so it's not quite as flat as this one. You only need tiny amounts of paint, so a small amount of black. And then I'm gonna take, it should be pretty clean water. My water got kind of dirty, but I'm gonna use it anyway. And I can water this down. I can just do it directly on the newspaper, or I could do it in another container if I want. And then I'm gonna brush this over back and forth. And then this black will kind of settle in the textured areas and make it pop a little bit. So I'll let that dry and see what it looks like after it's more dry. You could also do this with a different color, like with a gold or silver. So this is the one that I just painted like straight blue. So I'm gonna show you some ways that you can add a little bit of depth so it's not just like such a flat color. I found this like pearl viridian color. So it's like a shimmery green. And I'm gonna squeeze out just a little bit and I'm gonna blend two colors together while they're kind of wet. So the way I do that is I make sure that I always have clean brushes. Hopefully that's clean, we'll see. And I kind of use one brush for each color. So if I use this one for blue, I'm gonna start by adding some blue to one side, and I'm gonna go back and forth and bring it up. And I'm gonna leave that there. I'm gonna get this green. And I'm gonna start on the other end and then work it back into the blue while it's wet. And then I'm gonna rinse my brush because I got a little bit of blue on it and I don't want blue up here. I want more green. So I'm rinsing my brush, drying it off, getting more green. I want the green to be a little bit stronger. I'm gonna add more green, and it's all still kind of wet. So that helps me blend color into color. And I don't want to take the green all the way to the end. So what I'll do is get my blue brush again and start back here and work the blue back in. A lot of the blending has to do with pressure changes and brush strokes. So going back and forth, light pressure, making sure your brush is clean, work color into color. So now this one has a little bit more depth than just flat blue. If I wanted to also, I could do a metallic wash over things. So it's kind of the same thing where you water the clay down so it flows easier and is more transparent. And I'm just doing it right on the newspaper here. But if you're gonna do a lot, you could do it in a container where you add the paint and then a little bit of water to it. But here's my metallic wash. And I'm just gonna go back and forth over what's already there. And then I can let it dry. And if it's too heavy, like, oh, maybe I put too much on, I can use water to kind of wipe it away. I could dab it a little bit with a paper towel, but I probably want to let that dry and then I can see what it looks like when it's all dry. If you have a lot of paint left over of a color and you're able to remove the cap, unscrew it, take your brush, scoop it up, and then drop it back in the container. These bottle tops, they unscrew and you can save a lot of paint that way. These, you're never gonna get off. So remember to do only just a little bit at a time, because what you don't use might get thrown away. And then make sure you clean your brushes really good in clean water. Pre-clean them before you go to the sink so it saves time. You can squeeze them out, try to keep them in like a little point. Okay, you don't want to put back dirty brushes because remember the acrylic is like plastic, and when it hardens, they'll be hard as a rock.